Minister Holness will now make a statement.
Good morning, everyone. After careful consideration and review of the crime statistics, in particular violent crimes, which have been committed in some western parishes, the security forces have advised that the situation now currently exists would warrant the government advising the Governor General to proclaim a state of public emergency. His Excellency the Most Honorable Sir Patrick Linton Allen has declared that a state of public emergency exists in the community of the entire area comprising the parishes of St. James, Hanover, and Westmoreland. This proclamation shall, unless previously revoked, remain in place for 14 days or for such longer period, not exceeding 3 months, as both Houses of Parliament may determine by resolution supported by a 2/3 majority of all the members of each House. The Commissioner of Police will now give some details of the state of public emergency.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Could we get the slide up, please? Make sure that I'm looking at the same. Thank you very much. If I just draw your attention to the map on the left, this is actually an image of Jamaica in 2017 and what the situation obtained then. And this, what you're seeing up here, is the number of persons who were murdered in the parishes per 100,000. And we're using that because it is an international accepted benchmark of how you measure these things, and also it speaks to the risk to population in this area. Could you go to the next slide, please? In 2018, there was a change. As you see, the parish of St. James now went down to 55, which meant that the parish of Westmoreland was the most murder-dense place in the country. Secondly was the parish of Hanover. If you look at what has happened since the beginning of 2019, next slide please, you'll notice that Westmoreland is ahead, and this is so far. If you extrapolate these figures to the end of the year, where you see 29 will be about 90, and so on in those. So Westmoreland is now leading. St. James has gone up 70% over where it was last year at this point, and Hanover is still significantly high. It was these figures and the challenge of violence in these spaces that caused myself and the CDS to recommend to the Prime Minister that we declare a state of public emergency in these areas. We must save lives.
Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of National Security, Attorney General, Permanent Secretaries, Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Morning.
At dawn today, the JDF and JCF deployed to the parishes of St. James, Westmoreland, and Hanover. The state of emergency will give the security forces temporary additional powers, including additional powers of search, arrest, and detention. We acknowledge that persons may be justifiably concerned about the implications of the security operation as they go about their everyday lives. We want to assure the citizens of Jamaica that both the JDF and JCF have been properly trained and oriented to give due regard to the basic human and citizen rights of all persons within the communities. We intend to continue this approach in this particular case. Nonetheless, we urge persons to acquaint themselves with the regulations and requirements governing the state of emergency in order to easily and conveniently transit the areas as they go about their lawful business. In order to assist in this regard, we will be working closely with the media to ensure swift and open communication of these rules and requirements. During the period of the state of emergency, citizens will encounter various operations, including highly visible vehicle checkpoints. The purpose of these checkpoints are not to inconvenience citizens, but rather to add a robust element of security for residents as well as other citizens transiting the area. We ask citizens that for ease and simplicity as they approach these checkpoints to lower their windows and during dark periods to turn on their roof lights. We also implore citizens that as they comply with the guidelines to transit the area, they should not slow down excessively beyond what they are asked to do, just to observe the activities, as that will cause an increase in traffic buildup. As we pledge to carry out our operations with the professionalism and respect that we are known for, we're also seeking the cooperation and support of the citizens in this area and indeed all across Jamaica. We're asking you to use any one of the available tip lines to report gang or other violent activities. And the tip lines are 311 for the JCCF tip line and 876-837-8888 for the JDF tip line. This community support is a key component of our intelligence gathering process and rests heavily upon your input and involvement. Please help us to identify these individuals by reporting them. In closing, let me reaffirm that the JDF and JCF have both the commitment and capability to achieve success in reducing the levels of murder, shootings, and violent crimes as we did last year. We welcome the continued support that we have gotten from the citizens and various other groups, including the private sector, as we strive to bring lasting peace to Jamaica, and in this case, particularly the parishes of St. James, Westmoreland, and Hanover. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, CDS, Commissioner of Police, and Prime Minister for your presentations. Good morning as well to the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation in the Office of the Prime Minister, Mrs. Audrey Sewell. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, thank you so much. We are live on Love 101 and certainly on social media. The Prime Minister and team at the head table or at the podium will now take a few questions. May I ask that you raise your hands, you'll be identified, the microphone will be given to you, and we ask that you ask your questions succinctly. Are there any questions? All right, so let's have the questions.
I didn't realize
That you have to go real fast. All right, so Mr. Fitzhenley, and then we'll be followed by Laverne and Mr. Hall.
Abka Fitzhenley, Nationwide News. Good morning to your Prime Minister. The states of public emergency have been declared in the western parishes, and some Jamaicans would say at a time when there is dwindling trust in elements of the security forces. And I refer to that incident in Spanish Town where policeman killed Indicom investigating some officers for murder, etc. Have you been briefed about that incident? I suppose it would concern you. And what do you say to the citizenry who are concerned about that trust factor in relation to the security forces?
Well, I'll allow the Minister of National Security to answer the specific question, but the general question regarding the trust of the security forces, I believe that the conduct of the previously declared states of public emergency would have gained sufficient credit in the minds of the public to continue their support for this declaration. Just generally, this crime that is now being talked about, which involves policemen, we can be sure that the leadership of the police force, the management of the police force, and the government will do everything to ensure that there is a full investigation and all who are responsible will be brought to justice. I consider it a part of the process of actually rebuilding the trust.
Mr. Dawkins from RJ, that means Livorn has given up his right to ask a question? All right.
Yes,
Mr.
Nick Dawkins from RJ News. Why a state of public emergency as opposed to a zones of special operations?
I don't think there is a trade-off between either. I think you should look forward to seeing both. As I had promised in Parliament before, that the government will use all the tools available to protect the lives of citizens. And the tools that are available include states of public emergency and zones of special operations.
Will you have adequate manpower to police the area, given that it's 3 parishes?
Well, I understand the question, but we would never declare a state of public emergency without being certain of the resources to adequately man it.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Mr. Hall?
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. Arthur Hall from the Jamaica Observer. The opposition used its vote in Parliament to shut down the last state of emergency. Is this something you have discussed with them? Have you indicated to them that you're going back this route?
Well, I indicated in Parliament that if the situation warranted, that we would declare other states of public emergency. The law does provide for 14 days. Within these 14 days, the security forces have a work plan that they intend to pursue and certain objectives to accomplish. We invite the support of the opposition. We are in discussions regarding a new scheme of operations which would see enhanced powers being put into law, which would reduce the reliance, if ever, on the states of public emergency. I have informed members of the opposition before the declaration. We await to see what their response will be.
All right, final question for Mr. Barrett of Gleaner.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Liverpool Barrett, the Gleaner. The numbers in Clarendon, some people have said it screams it's for a state of emergency, but yet none today. Can you explain to the people of the country, the people of Clarendon, why it was not included?
Okay, thank you for that question, but I think the previous question that was asked kind of answers this one. I mean, there's only so much resources we have, and there's, as I showed before on the map, it's clear what the most significant heat spots are. Clarendon is having significant challenges as well, and perhaps if we had as much resources as we would like, we would have done that one as well, because it could lend itself to one. The actual contiguous nature of the 3 parishes allow us to use our resources in a more efficient way and get the result across all 3 parishes because they're beside each other. Okay.
Commissioner, thank you so much. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister and the team would have to have another. Kirk, I'm so sorry, if we could, please. We have another press conference with the World Bank at 10 o'clock, and the Prime Minister has a meeting then. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending.